welcome everybody to Tall Woman with Red Fan. Today's reading. I'm going to keep this really brief because we want to get right to the show. I want to give a couple of thanks right at the top. I want to thank Hannah Tyler for helping me with social media outreach. I definitely want to thank my husband Tony for being an inspiration every single day. I never imagined I'd ever say these words, but there's no one I'd rather be quarantined with, and that is a fact. And I want to thank my dear pal Frank for being such a good friend and for sharing some tools from the toolbox. I know that sounds a little cryptic, and it's supposed to. Now, I'd also want to remind everyone that we're trying to raise some money for the Actors Fund's COVID-19 relief efforts. So please hit that GoFundMe link that was in the email you received, or you can find it on the Tall Woman with Red Fan Facebook page that you're on if you're watching on Facebook Live. And please, I encourage you to give whatever you can. We kind of got off to a little bit of a slow start with the fundraising, but I know there's a lot of generous people out there, and I hope that you'll be able to do whatever you can. So thank you. Well, welcome to Quarantine Theater. We're all going to be here because art doesn't stop for pandemics or for anything. So this is going to call for a little bit of imagination on your part. Your grandparents and great-grandparents probably could have told you about the old, days of radio before television and how they used to listen to plays and comedies and dramas on the radio and how they could imagine what was going on and actually kind of see it in their mind's eye. Well, that's a little bit of what's going to happen today. Of course, you're going to see the actors here on your screen, but you'll have to imagine the rooms they're in. You'll have to imagine them moving around and what they're seeing. We have a narrator, Susan, who will give you some key stage directions to kind of keep you oriented in space. But you'll have to use some muscles that we don't use a lot today. You'll have to listen. Okay, I want to introduce our cast. I'm going to introduce them in the order that you're going to hear from them first. And first up is Susan Malerstein-Watkins. She is our narrator today. Wave, Susie, so they can see you. There she is. Susan's been my friend for well over half my life. She's an incredibly talented and gifted actress. And she is also the leading script supervisor in Hollywood. And that is, I can assure you, one of the most challenging jobs on any movie or TV set. And no one is better at it than her. And I just adore this woman. Now, at this point, Susan's going to turn her camera off. So from here forward, you'll only hear her voice, but you won't see her. Next is Jeffrey DeMunn, who plays Dakin. Jeff's been a pal for the better part of a couple of decades now, and we've worked together a few times. And all I can say about Jeff is that every writer should be lucky enough to experience the pride and pleasure of having this great actor bring their lines to life. He is one of the finest actors of his or any other generation. And he is an absolute wonder. He is a very dear friend, and I'm sure you're all going to see this shortly for yourselves. And now, Jeff, you owe me $20. So, oh, all right, we'll work that out later. Sara Ray Foster, wave, Ray. There she is. She plays Minnie. She is a revelation. I've known Ray for a few years now, and I've seen her work on stage and on screen, and on stage or off. I am always so taken with her quality and her spirit, and that just shines right out of her. I wrote a play called The Ravine a while back, and Ray participated in that reading, and I was so blown away by what she brought to the room that night. Everyone was, and there was no question in my mind that she had to be a part of Red Fan, and by hook or by crook, and I'm so glad she agreed. And I'm so happy that she's here with us tonight. And then Jane Carr. Hi, Jane. Jane plays Aurora. This actress leaves me speechless. We only met about 3 weeks ago on Zoom, of course. And by the way, a shout out and big thanks to my pal, the great casting director, Suzanne Goddard Smythe, because when I texted her in a panic about how I needed a very particular actress, without hesitation, Suzanne texted me back. She said, "Oh, you want Jane Carr?" And boy, holy crap, was she right. Jane is brilliant and singular, and I am the luckiest writer in the world to have her here. And let's talk about career longevity. If you want to see get a lesson in that, check out Jane's IMDb page. Not right now, but afterwards, and you will get a lesson in how to have a brilliant lifetime career. I am so thankful to be working with her. And now a quick word about the tech. There will likely be glitches in the audio and video. This can't be helped. We're at the mercy of the internet and the Wi-Fi gods here. I've done sacrifices earlier today to those gods, and it wasn't pretty, and you're lucky you weren't there. If something goes radically wrong, and I mean really radically wrong, then and only then will I break in and we'll try to put things right. Otherwise, it's live theater, folks. We're going to be around afterwards for a brief Q&A. If there's anybody who comes up with any questions or comments, you can type your questions into the chat box down below on Zoom or into the comments on the Facebook live stream. All right, that's it. Right now, without further ado, I would like to welcome you to Tall Woman with Red Fan. Enjoy the show, and please take it away, Susan.
Tall Woman with Red Fan by Michael Sloane. Scene 1, front parlor, living room morning. Lights up on a large, late 19th century Victorian home in Hyannisport, Massachusetts. The parlor living room is open and lightly and tastefully updated. It retains much of its original character with decidedly masculine touches, including a sofa and several comfortable chairs. The front door is stage left. At stage right is a large, 5-foot tall by 2-foot wide rectangular object on an aluminum stand easel. It's set low to the ground, fully draped with a dark cloth. The room is flooded with good light. Stairs up stage right head upstairs. We hear sound effects. A car pulls up and parks. Car door opens, closes. Car alarm is set. Beep, beep. Doorbell. Dakin Knox makes his way on stage through a hallway that leads off stage right. Dakin crosses the room, opens the front door.
Well, there you are. Found me okay?
It really got weird right at the end there, like you said.
Yeah, I figured you'd have some kind of GPS, and that always turns people around right at the end.
Can I ask, does someone famous live around here? I passed a bunch of touristy looking people.
Yeah, the Kennedy place is right down there.
Shut up. The Kennedys? Well, duh, of course. Hyannisport, the Kennedy compound. Oh my God. What are they like?
Oh, they couldn't be nicer folk, but they do bring the traffic. Oh, I'm sorry. Please come on in.
Thanks. It's so nice to finally meet you in person after all the calls and emails. Minerva Hatton, Bunbury's auction house. I'm Aurora Talmadge's assistant. Call me Minnie.
Dakin Knox, welcome. Isn't Miss Talmadge with you?
Oh, no. No. We flew together from LA and I picked up a car at Logan, but she didn't want to drive down with me. No, she's walking.
That's 70 miles.
Oh, no. Sorry, no. Miss Talmadge took the train. I rented a car. She took the train. She likes trains, British thing, I guess. She arrived at Hyannis Station about 30 minutes ago. She's walking here from there.
That's a decent walk, about 2.5 miles, give or take.
Miss Talmadge lives 2 miles from Bunbury's, and she's walked down Wilshire Boulevard from her apartment in Park La Brea to the office in Beverly Hills every single morning for 27 years, rain or shine, even on the 100-degree days.
Oh, wonders never cease. Someone from LA who walks on purpose.
Though she doesn't own a car. I don't think she's ever driven, at least not in America. They drive on the wrong side of the road in England. I don't think I could do that.
Well, you must be exhausted. Overnight flights can be rough.
No, I'm fine. I slept most of the way.
Did Miss Talmadge get some sleep?
Well, I couldn't say actually. She was up in business class. I was in coach.
Gotcha.
Genius has its perks. Oh my gosh, the light in here is amazing.
Northern exposure. Cloudy day like today, you get great filtered light. This is the room that Victor painted in.
I can see why.
Victor Henry Knox had this house built to his exact specifications, 1885, right at the height of his fame. Before he and my great-great-grandmother moved here, they lived up in Boston, but it got too loud and too crowded, so they came to Cape Cod.
Minnie moves to the fireplace. She squints at the painted motto inscribed on the wall above it.
Hide not your talents, they for use were made. What's a sundial in the shade? BF. That's nice.
It was Victor's favorite saying.
Who was Victor's best friend? BF?
Oh, no, that's Benjamin Franklin. Victor idolized him, born in Boston, just like him.
Huh. A sundial in the shade. How about that?
Minnie moves to the covered object.
Is this?
That's it. Would you like me to?
Oh, I was hoping you'd ask. I mean, I've only seen the JPEGs you emailed me, of course, but I'd really love to if it's not too much trouble.
No, not at all. That's the whole reason you're here.
Dakin grabs a corner of the cloth, flips it off in one flourish, and reveals a painting.
Oh my.
Dakin steps back, gathers the canvas in his arms as Minnie moves closer.
Tall Woman with Red Fan by Victor Henry Knox. I'm guessing 1918, early 1919 at the latest. Besides me, you're the second living person to ever lay eyes on it in the flesh.
The painting, done in oils, is a large grand manner portrait of a tall, strikingly beautiful young woman in an elegant deep blue gown. Against a background of lush, dark drapery, she stares languidly into the middle distance, a vivid red fan in her right hand held down by her side, almost as an afterthought. And she bears a vague resemblance to Catherine Zeta-Jones. More on that later. Think of the late 19th, early 20th century portraits by John Singer Sargent, and you're in the right area.
You okay?
Oh yeah. It's so very, very, very beautiful. I mean, from the photos you sent, I could see it was a Knox. Of course, I've always loved all of his work. It's also breathtaking, but I guess I wasn't really prepared for how very, very, very glorious.
She moves so close. Her nose almost touches the canvas.
No varnish?
Nope, bare pigment. I imagine he never got around to varnishing it before he died. I'm sure he intended to.
He was so particular about the varnish. There's a whole chapter in volume 3 about VHK and his varnish formulation, the way he applied it.
I know, I have the books, of course, all 6 volumes. I guess there'll have to be a volume 7 now.
That's what Miss Talmadge had in mind. That is, if,
If she finds Red Fan to be genuine.
Which of course it is. It totally is. I mean, that's obvious.
Miss Hatton, you want to see something cool?
He moves to an armchair just right of center. He grabs one side.
Give me a hand. We need to slide it over a bit.
Minnie comes over and they pick up and move the armchair a few feet stage left to get it off of the rug it sat on. Dakin crouches at one side of the rug, motions for Minnie to do the same.
Now we just need to roll this up a bit.
They do. Then they stand and Dakin points to the section of floor that was under the chair.
Is this where Victor painted?
He'd really load up his palette, which explains all the stains. He used a lot of paint. I mean, he'd lay it on thick.
Victor Henry Knox stood right here.
The subject would be over there. You see how this part of the floor is worn down? After every few brush strokes, he'd move back about 6 feet to take a look and see how he was doing.
Sight size. That's how he was trained.
Sight size method, exactly right. Well, he walked back and forth so often, he wore right through the lacquer on the floorboards. We always just kept it that way.
That's amazing. So amazing. Miss Talmadge is going to plot when she sees this.
Minnie's iPhone rings so loudly she nearly jumps out of her skin. She takes it out of her pocket, looks at the display.
Oh, speaking of.
And she answers it on speaker. It's a FaceTime
Miss
call.
Talmadge?
Miss Hatton, are you there?
Right here, Miss Talmadge.
Are you at the Knox house?
Yes, I'm here with Mr. Knox.
Dakin, call me Dakin.
Here with Dakin.
Please don't assume to be on familiar terms with Mr. Knox. You've only just met the man.
Yes, but he...
Miss Talmadge? Miss Talmadge, Dakin Knox here. She can call me Dakin, it's all right.
Hello, Mr. Knox. No, it most certainly is not all right. Miss Hatton, the room where the painting is located, is the light satisfactory?
I believe so, Miss Talmadge.
Would she like me to pick her up? Miss Talmadge, would you like me to pick you up?
I've been in planes, cabs, and trains for 9 interminable hours. I can certainly walk the last 2.6 miles. This contraption says I'm just under a quarter mile away. I'll be there in less than 5 minutes.
Aurora clicks off.
Wow.
Yeah.
She likes FaceTime?
Yeah, she's nuts for it.
I could only see the top of her head.
Yeah, well, she holds it up like this. You know, I've tried to tell her to hold it farther away, but it doesn't take. My parents used to do the same thing. They call it the FaceTime. Minnie, honey, we'll call you on the FaceTime. And they call me on the FaceTime every other day when I was away at college.
Where'd you go?
Pitt, University of Pittsburgh.
Hmm.
My dad went there. It was all he ever wanted for me. He was so excited when I got admitted to the business school, just like him. Same MBA track, just like him. I remember the look on their faces when I FaceTimed them just before sophomore year. I told them I was changing my major from business to art history. You'd have thought I told them I was joining Al-Qaeda.
Well, to be fair, that is a big change.
True. And I remember their look, sort of shocked and sad and angry all at the same time, kind of like, I should have taken a screenshot. Then the first job I got when I moved to LA was junior staff art historian with Bunbury's, which means, of course, I might be the only person to ever parlay an art history degree into an actual career in art. Well, I should bring the stuff in from the car.
What kind of stuff?
Oh, just some field testing equipment. Be right back.
Minnie exits. Dakin watches her from the front door.
That's a lot of equipment.
Minnie enters, schlepping an absurd number of aluminum equipment cases, both rectangular and tubular, which she sets down a few feet in front of the red van.
Is that everything?
Almost.
She exits again.
Really, I can help you with the...
No. Miss Talmadge would kill me. No, I've got it. No problemo.
Oh, what is all this?
Well, lights, more lights, laptop, infrared reflectography camera, another laptop, regular camera, tripod, more lights, and I have no idea what that one is actually.
She glances at her watch.
Oh my gosh, she's almost here.
Minnie looks around, spots red fan still uncovered.
Oh, we should cover up the...
Oh, I'm on it. Have no fear.
As Dakin covers red fan with a cloth, Minnie, panicked, excitedly turns in a tight circle a couple of times as she frantically looks around until she spots a few paintings on the walls that are ever so slightly crooked. She hurries from one to the other and straightens them.
Miss Hatton, you don't have to do that.
Oh, you have no idea. Miss Talmadge has a thing about artwork that isn't hung perfectly straight. I've seen her set off alarms in museums trying to straighten paintings. Trust me, if she walked in here and saw anything even slightly off, she'd fuss over it, and you don't need that. There.
There's a knock at the door. Minnie freezes. Dakin opens the door.
Well, you must be Miss Talmadge. Please come in.
Aurora Talmadge strides into the parlor, peels off a pair of gloves as she takes a good look around. She carries a tote bag and a handbag, is immaculately dressed and coiffed, though incongruously, she wears sneakers.
How was your walk from the station?
A large woman in a pink t-shirt and purple shorts asked if I was Ethel Kennedy. I very nearly bashed her with her Pringles can.
Yeah, sorry, the tourists can get a little excitable.
The Kennedy compound is down the street, Miss Talmadge. Can you believe it?
Which explains the abundance of over-scented sightseers. I passed a trio of young gentlemen and very nearly fainted from Axe body spray inhalation. Aurora Talmadge, Director of Art Authentication and Provenance Research for Bunbury's Auction House, Los Angeles.
They shake hands. But Aurora doesn't let go right away. She pulls Dakin close, then even closer.
You very much resemble your great-great-grandfather, especially around the nose and the eyes.
Yeah, well, we call it the Knox nose. I'll take it as a compliment.
As you should.
She finally lets go of Dakin's hand.
And I have to say, you look just as I pictured you.
Yes, I get that a lot.
She heads for a chair, waits by it.
May I?
Oh, please.
During the following, Aurora sits, takes off her sneakers, reaches into the tote bag and takes out an elegant pair of shoes, which she changes into.
I mean, I've seen your photo in the books, of course, the last 3 volumes, that is. The author of the first 3 volumes, Epperson, did you know him?
Bernard Epperson was a colleague, a friend, and a mentor. He was a very great man, a very, very great man, and it's been the honor of my life to pick up the mantle of his extraordinary legacy and bring it to a conclusion.
A painting on the upstage wall catches her eye, a lush, verdant landscape. It clearly has pride of a place in this room. She rises and walks up to it, regards it.
Now that's nice. Yes, that's very nice indeed. Who's the artist, if you don't mind my asking?
Oh, it's a local fella, down Cape, Wellfleet, if memory serves.
Well, he's quite talented. How old is he?
Oh, a young fella, late 20s, I'm guessing.
Ah, too bad.
Why?
I was hoping he was at death's door, in which case my advice would be to buy as much of his work as you possibly can and hope he has an aneurysm.
She peers at the signature in the corner of the painting.
Is this the artist's name? Dick?
Yeah, I think so.
Dick? Is that his given name or surname?
Oh, I really couldn't tell you.
Dick? What a terribly unfortunate name for an artist. But the painting is fabulous.
Have you ever been to this house before?
No, I haven't.
I remember when Bernard Epperson came to visit. He was researching the first volume of the Catalogue Raisonné, and I couldn't have been more than 16 or 17. He was a big fella, as I recall. Tall, giant hands. Shook my hand. It was like shaking hands with a catcher's mitt. And he had that thin little mustache.
Like Clark Gable.
Exactly. Mother thought he was dashing. And she loved that he was so British. She offered him coffee and he asked if tea would be too much trouble. She said, no trouble at all. And then she made me run down to the grocery and buy a box of Lipton's. Say, would you care for some tea?
No, thank you.
Saves me a trip to the grocery. Well, then let me give you the nickel tour. This, of course, is the parlor, pretty much the way it was in Victor's day, except for the furniture and the artwork.
He gestures towards a trio of framed sketches on one wall.
Those are some of his charcoal studies. Victor never hung any of his own art in here during his lifetime, but those sketches are of the family, so they mean something to me.
Aurora and Minnie head over for a closer look. Aurora steps back, assesses, reaches out and straightens 2 of the frames as Minnie and Dakin exchange a glance.
Very lovely. The one of the little boy and girl is charming.
Yeah, cute, right? That's my great-grandfather and my great-aunt.
So adorbs.
Never say that again.
Aurora moves to the fireplace, sees the painted motto.
This saying by Benjamin Franklin, was it always there?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Family lore says Victor painted that himself.
What's a sundial in the shade? What indeed? What indeed?
Like I said, very little's changed in here. We always did upkeep, freshen the paint and the like. Except for the furniture and a few pieces of decor, it's pretty much the way it looked the day Victor died. Thinking at some point I might leave the place to the VHK archives up in Boston. They've asked me about it a few times over the years, and I...
Yes, the light. I remember the light.
Pardon?
Oh, the light. Yes, it's quite wonderful.
Why do you think your family's always kept it the same?
I guess we all knew the reason we got to live in this nice big house was because of Victor.
Respect. Makes sense. In LA, this would have been condos by now, or a Chipotle.
When I was little, I thought that this place was haunted. I guess, in a way, it was. Maybe it still is. Every famous actor and actress of the day, politicians, musicians, industrialists, the beautiful, the powerful, they all came here. And maybe they all left a little bit of themselves behind.
That's a bit much.
Yeah, you're probably right. President Harrison came here for a sitting. President Taft had a portrait done too, but Victor went to DC for that one. He didn't think Taft would fit through the door.
Aurora spots the worn streaks on the floor.
Victor's?
From walking back and forth.
The miles he must have trod in search of his perfection.
Minnie and Dakin watch Aurora, who seems oddly out of sorts.
I always wondered why the books never talked much about Victor's workspace. There's just that one photo from 1901 when Victor was making his portrait of Sarah Bernhardt.
We'll fix that in the next volume. Miss Hatton, let's make sure to get photos in here, especially the tracks on the floor.
Yes, Miss Talmadge.
Minnie takes out her iPhone.
With the real camera, please.
Oh, right. Okay, right. Sorry.
Minnie goes to the cases, unpacks a digital camera, takes photos of the room.
Well, I guess you'd like to see Red Fan now.
Well, we'll get to that. After all, it's why we're here. But first, I'd like to know how you discovered Red Fan.
Well, okay, sure. I mean, I gave Miss Hatton the whole story when I contacted her, so I...
Yes, and she told it to me, but I'd like to hear it from you. Go.
Well, it started with the roof, I guess. I had to put a new roof on the house last year, which is a pricey endeavor for a place this size. But it had been probably 30, 40 years since my father had the last roof put on. And I've been patching it here and there whenever I found a leak. And anyway, it was time, I guess. So before the roofers came, I took everything I cared about down from the attic, just in case the roofing, debris came down through the rafters. So after the roofers were done, I went up to the attic to see how everything looked. And it was pretty bad. The roofers, they'd left a good mess behind. So I'm up there with a shovel and brooms and trash cans, hauling down sawdust and bits of tar and wood and insulation and whatnot. Now there's only this one light up there, just a bare bulb, 40 watts. So I brought up a big bright work light that I had down in the garage so I could see. And as I'm shoveling and sweeping, I noticed with all this extra light, I noticed something way off in the far corner tucked under the eaves. Now, I've been up in that attic 1,000 times before. I mean, I was born in this house, grew up in this house, so you can imagine. But never had I noticed anything tucked up under the eaves before. And to be fair, you could barely see it, and it was covered with chunks of wood and sawdust and globs of tar from the roof. And I'm thinking, well, it's just more trash the roofers left behind. But as I get closer, I can see that it's a drop cloth. This old canvas drop cloth. So I go over, and I have to practically crawl over on my hands and knees because the eaves slope down real low in the corner. And I tug on the drop cloth, and I see there's something under it. And I think to myself, I actually said it out loud. I said, how the hell did that get up here? And then I see it's a canvas. I'm looking at the back of it, but I'm thinking, obviously, it's something to do with Victor. So my heart's kind of racing, even though I don't know what it is. Anyway, I pulled it out, which took some doing, I don't mind telling you, and I took it downstairs. And that's when I saw it was Red Fan. The end.
Well, That's a good story, a ripping good yarn, as my father was wont to say. Now, let's have a look at it, shall we?
Right.
Just as he did for Minnie, Dakin moves to the painting, grabs the cloth, flips it off with a flourish.
Tall woman with red.
Yes, blah, 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 blah. Let's see what we have here.
Aurora scans the surface of the painting carefully, sniffs it, then she moves around the back of the painting, at which point Minnie, finished taking photos, comes over. The digital camera hangs from a strap around her neck as she holds its metal case. Minnie makes eye contact with Dakin, smiles, and crosses her fingers. Aurora finally comes around the front of the painting, stares at it for a long moment, then...
Is it just me, or does she bear a vague resemblance to Catherine Zeta-Jones?
Oh my God, you're right.
Huh. Never really thought about it. So, what do you think?
What do I think? What do I think? Well, I think it's a complete and total fucking forgery. That's what I think.
Bang! Minnie drops the camera case, and then there's a long pause. A really, really long pause. Minnie, mouth open like a jaw-dropped Warner Brothers cartoon character, looks from Aurora to Dakin, to the painting, and back again.
But that's
But Miss Hatton, are you ill?
that's impossible.
Is there somewhere Miss Hatton and I may speak privately?
I'll be in the kitchen.
Dakin ambles away, and just before he exits, he taps the frame of a picture on the wall and makes it crooked. Neither Aurora nor Minnie notice.
Miss Talmadge, I think
First,
you're...
I don't care what you think. And second, don't ever, ever, ever contradict me in front of a client.
Yes, Miss Talmadge.
Is that perfectly clear?
Yes, Miss Talmadge.
Never again.
Yes, Miss Talmadge, though he's not technically...
What?
He's not technically a client.
We'll split those hairs another time. For now, since you've apparently have what you think is an opinion, you have precisely 1 minute to tell me why you think that forgery isn't a forgery. Go.
Well, okay. The
50 seconds, Miss Hatton, tick-tock.
Okay. First, there's the aging of the frame wood. It's dark and oxidized. And the keys, they're dark too, just like all the other late period Knoxes we've seen. And the wood, the canvas back, the primer visible on the margins, it all matches every Victor Henry Knox I've ever examined. And the brushstrokes are a match too, and the composition is typical of Knox's late period. And the overall aging and crackle are well within expectations. And oh, just before he died, Knox wrote about wanting to paint a woman in a blue dress with a red fan. It was in his diary. And
10 seconds if you want them.
No, ma'am, I'm done.
Cakes, Miss Hatton, are done. People are finished.
I haven't changed your mind.
Not remotely.
Then I don't know. You say it's a forgery. I don't believe it is. But I'm just going by what I've learned and what you taught me. So you're going to have to, show me what I'm missing. Please.
You want to learn?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I do.
All right.
Aurora goes to the painting, stands to one side, points to it.
Instinct. Instinct derived from decades of experience tells me that this cannot possibly be a genuine Victor Henry Knox.
But I can't argue with instinct.
I know.
Has your instinct ever been wrong?
Thin ice, Miss Hatton.
Well, then, can we at least test it to see who's right? I mean, we have the tools. I mean, why else did I bring all that stuff with us? And we came all the way across the country, didn't we? And this was Victor Henry Knox's house. His great-great-grandson's in the kitchen.
All right.
And not only that.
I said, all right.
I mean, from a research perspective alone, there are things we can find out.
Miss Hatton, learn to take yes for an answer.
Yes.
If he gives consent to test Red Fan's authenticity, I won't stand in your way.
Minnie practically does a jig of joy. She's so happy.
But I guarantee he won't let you. Because the first test you run will expose it. Now, does that make you happy?
Minnie claps her hands like a 6-year-old getting a birthday cake.
I can see that it does. Now, please ask Mr. Knox to come back in.
Minnie dashes out of the room. Aurora watches her go.
And have him bring a bottle of scotch so I can get through this.
Aurora looks around, spots something, walks over to the painting Dakin set askew. She frowns, tilts her head, reaches out, sets it level. There. Better. She moves back into the room as Dakin and Minnie re-enter.
What kind of tests are we talking about?
Nothing invasive, I promise. Just some.
No, I'd like Miss Talmadge to answer.
Miss Hatton believes Red Fan is genuine. The tests are her idea.
But you think it's a forgery.
I do.
I know you do. You stood right there and told me so. A total fucking forgery. Did I get that right?
My dear Mr. Knox, I wasn't accusing you of forging Red Fan.
But you think someone did? Just out of curiosity, how do you think this someone could have possibly forged a Victor Henry Knox?
Well, someone would find an old painting that was the right age and the right size, chemically wash the canvas to remove the former painting, fake the pigment chemistry for the primer and paint, and then imitate the style of Victor Henry Knox.
Oh, simple.
No, not simple at all. But random heathen forgers down the ages have done it countless times.
All right, then, let me ask you this. Do you think in all the tests Miss Hatton wants to run, she could find anything that'll change your mind?
I'll put it this way. Anything that could change my mind likely won't come from any tests Miss Hatton runs.
Okay, Miss Hatton, you feel free to test whatever you want.
Dakin crosses to the bar.
I'm getting a drink. Can I get you something?
Oh, my dear God, yes.
Scotch, all right?
Mind reader, splash of water, thank you.
Miss Hatton?
Minnie has already started to unpack the cases.
No. No, I'm okay.
Oh, go on, have a drink.
Wait, are you too young to drink?
Young? Why, she just achieved object permanence last week.
I'm 22. She's joking.
Yeah, I picked that up. 22 is young, but I have the feeling you're an old soul. Sure you don't want something?
Well, okay. A Coke?
No, you're an old soul. If you're going to have a drink, have a drink.
But I have to keep my head clear to do the tests, and I have to be able to drive, and that car's a rental, and do you have white wine?
Dear God.
I got sherry. Close enough?
Yes, thanks.
Minnie goes about her setting up as Dakin makes the drinks. Through the following dialogue, she'll open the equipment cases and take out of them a heavy-duty orange extension cord, a boxy digital camera and tripod, which she aims at Red Fan, 2 500-watt halogen floodlights on tripods, which she aims at Red Fan, a laptop into which she plugs the camera, and then suddenly sound effects and lights tell us that it has started to rain.
Is that rain?
Probably just a squall rolling through.
It was sunny when I was walking.
Happens on the Cape. Like we say, if you like the weather, give it 10 minutes.
Oh, wonderful.
So, Miss Hatton, this test you're going to run, what's it called?
Oh, infrared reflectography. It's a camera that looks beneath the surface of the painting. It's pretty neat, actually. These lights, they're really bright. And this camera is tuned to look at light in the infrared spectrum. Infrared light goes through the pigment layers, and when it reflects back, it can show us anything that might be underneath.
Like what? Like under drawings?
Exactly. Under drawings, sketches, anything that might be under the pigment.
And you'll see that on the laptop.
Right. But it can only take pictures of a small section at a time, like patches on a quilt. There's software in the computer that stitches it all together into a complete image. It takes about an hour for a painting like this.
Dakin comes over with their drinks.
Gotcha. Sounds complicated.
He hands Aurora her drink.
Thank you. Slauncher, as my Irish grandfather would have said when he was conscious.
And for you?
Thank you. Oh, my, that's strong.
It's sherry. My God, didn't you and your little college girlfriends ever go out drinking? Banana daiquiris and Long Island iced teas and that sort of thing?
I usually just had cranberry juice.
Really? Because you look like a banana daiquiri girl to me.
No, I kind of shied away from drinking since my mom was an alcoholic.
Oh,
Aurora takes a long draw of her drink. So does Dakin. Another long beat passes as Minnie works, whistling Whistle While You Work. The rain sounds louder.
A squall, you say?
oh yeah, it'll pass soon.
Minnie holds up the wall plug at the end of a long orange cord.
Mind if I plug this in?
Help yourself, right over there by the door.
Minnie takes the cord over and plugs it in.
You know, I'm actually, I dabble in art myself.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, I sell insurance, but a while back I decided to take up painting, sort of as a hobby, you might say. I find it relaxes me. So yeah, I paint.
Oh, how cool. Just like Victor.
Yes. Yes, how about that?
Well, no, not exactly like Victor. That's a pretty high bar. No, I paint in my own style. Would you like to maybe see a couple?
Oh, no. I don't think we need to, because...
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Be right back.
Dakin jumps to his feet, bounds up the stairs, and goes off stage. Aurora shoots a baleful glance at Minnie. She senses it.
What?
Oh, for sure, absolutely.
Why not?
Because it is not why we are here.
I was just trying to be friendly.
Well then, be less friendly. I swear to sweet sunny Jesus, if he brings out a bunch of frightful zaftig nudes, I'm walking back to Boston.
I don't know why you're so antagonistic toward Mr. Knox. He's been perfectly sweet and a total gentleman.
Has he now? Well, I hope you two will be very happy together. Let me know when you register at the Cape Cod Pottery Barn.
Dakin appears at the top of the stairs with 2 square canvases. We don't see them yet.
Here we go. Now, I have a bunch, but these are 2 of my favorites.
He crosses center stage and holds them up for Aurora and Minnie and the audience to see. They're brightly colored, blocky, pseudo-abstract still lifes, but there's no technique and even less talent on display. In short, they're objectively bad. Aurora moves right in front for a good look.
Where did you receive your, how shall I phrase it, training?
Oh, no, I'm self-taught.
Really? That's almost hard to believe.
I know they're not exactly Victor Henry Knox's, but I'm interested in hearing your honest opinion.
Well, I believe, Mr. Knox, I believe those are 2 quite marginal examples of art.
Ah, thanks. Okay, I'll just go put these back.
He gathers up the canvases and trudges back upstairs. Aurora feels Minnie stare at her.
Well, I wasn't going to lie. He wanted my honest opinion. He's a big boy. He'll get over it. Oh, don't look at me like that.
Like what?
Like I gouged out a puppy's eyes.
They weren't nearly as bad as they could have been.
Oh, definitely some unexplored potential there. And somewhere in artist hell, Thomas Kincaid laughs his arse off.
I'm sorry. I just believe there's always a way to give constructive criticism.
Yes, but that's not what he asked for, was it? He asked for an opinion, not help. And if what I said causes him to never paint for public consumption, I like to think I will have performed a true public service. Must be proximity to all those Kennedys. It's inspiring me.
Minnie goes back to work. The camera and lights are set up, the laptop is on, and everything's connected.
Is everything ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, don't dawdle, get on with it.
Yes, ma'am.
Minnie flips a switch and the halogen lights come on, incredibly bright. And then outside, a flash of lightning and thundercrack and everything electrical goes dark.
Miss Hatton, what the hell did you do?
Nothing. I just turned on the lights.
Well, turn them off. Dear God, I think you broke the Knox house.
Dakin appears at the top of the stairs, a pair of LED lanterns in hand.
Not to worry, folks. It happens all the time.
I didn't break the Knox house.
No, probably just a lightning strike on a transformer. Eversource is pretty good at getting the power back on.
This just keeps getting better.
I'm guessing you can't do your testing without power.
Nope. Dead in the water.
There's always drinking.
I like the way you think, Miss Talmadge.
He takes her glass.
Miss Hatton?
I'm good. Still working on my sherry.
Dakin goes to refresh the drinks.
I love living on the Cape, but it's not for everyone. If you look at a map, you see that we're really shoved out into the ocean here. And it's not just any ocean, it's the North Atlantic. So the weather ain't kidding around.
He hands Aurora her drink and sits. Minnie still stands next to her equipment.
Might as well take a load off, Miss Hatton. No telling how long this will last.
Yes, Miss Hatton, take a load off by all means. You're making us nervous. You know, I'm starting to like you, Mr. Knox, so I'm going to be totally honest with you.
Wait, you haven't been totally honest with me?
Of course not. I'm never totally honest when I'm trying to be on my best behavior.
I think it's a total fucking forgery is your best behavior?
My dear man, just imagine what I'm like when I'm not trying. Now, honesty. The art world today is utterly full of shit. Certainly the people on the sales and marketing side, but also most of today's so-called artists.
Miss Talmadge isn't a fan of most modern art.
Please, let's not go there. There's an art gallery in Los Angeles, which shall remain nameless, and in the center of a pure white 2,000 square foot room is an immaculately maintained, beautifully lit giant pile of dirt.
Dirt?
Dirt.
Oh, you're shitting me.
I can categorically assure you I shit you not. This giant pile of dirt is the work of a German artist, naturally, and into his giant pile of dirt, the German has stuck a random assortment of red and green plastic flags, the same plastic flags a gardener would use on a lawn to show where the sprinkler heads would go.
Oh, wait, I know the piece you're talking about. I saw it. It was a Beltrock. Amadeo Beltrock. Oh, he's amazing.
It was a pile of dirt.
It was actually much more than that. And all I can say is that it spoke to me.
Well, if a pile of dirt spoke to you, I can only dream of what a lawn would have said.
I guess I've just learned to broaden my idea of what art is.
Miss Hatton here has learned the first rule that anyone who undertakes a career in the art business learns. The definition of art is anything an artist calls art.
Is that right?
It's a bit reductive, but yes.
This rule, of course, is closely followed by its corollary, which holds that an artist is anyone who calls himself an artist. Once upon a time, there was such a thing as training. My God, even matchbooks offered art lessons. Why, you couldn't light a cigarette without seeing "Draw Fluffy and a career in art is yours" on a matchbook. Someone should correlate the decay of artistic ability to the decline in smoking. The graphs would be identical.
The concept of what art encompasses is much broader than it was in the past. I think that's a good thing.
Really? So in 1917, when Marcel Duchamp went into a plumbing store, bought a urinal, signed it en matte, hung it upside down on the wall and called it art, that made it art,
Yes.
Unequivocally?
Unequivocally, yes. And Baldessari's dots, and Serrano's Piss Christ, and Rauschenberg's erased de Kooning, and the photos of Mapplethorpe's ex-portfolio. You want me to go on?
Oh, please, dear God, no. But for the record, I'll stipulate that Duchamp and all of your examples are almost assuredly artists, and their works are absolutely art of one kind or another.
Then, wait, do we agree?
Oh, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Well, then you should also know I believe that the appreciation of art, or whatever we agree is art, is in the eye of the beholder.
Oh, thank God save us from the eyes of beholders.
No, I don't know. I think she has a good point there.
Does she? So, the German's pile of dirt, is it art?
Yes,
Unequivocally.
unequivocally.
You know, someone emailed me an article who went to see the German's pile of dirt a couple of days after I did. The woman sat down on the floor in the corner of the gallery just to behold it. But when she got up, she left her sunglass behind on the floor. She walked around for a bit, and when she remembered that she'd left her sunglasses behind, she went back. Only now there was a huge knot of people gathered in the corner, peering at the floor, and most of them were taking pictures of her sunglasses. She overheard someone call her sunglasses a radical comment on the disposable vapidity of modern culture, which made me laugh because I'd never heard a comment about art that was the holy trinity of self-aware, meta, and vacuous all at the same time. Now, I don't even want to speculate what this says about the gullibility of people. After all, we live in a world where Donald Trump's been the fucking president. But I think it says a lot about the state of the art world. Tell me, Miss Hatton, those sunglasses on the floor, were they art?
Well,
Aha, really has hesitation spoken so loudly?
I think if an artist is true to whatever drives them to express themselves, that's everything.
Fair point.
After all, the only thing that matters in life or love or art is truth.
That's beautiful. Who said that?
I did.
I think the only thing you two are going to agree on is that art is whatever you say it is.
You may very well be right.
What do you think art is?
I don't think art is as simple as someone calling something art. I think art is, I think it's something that shows a unique effort on the part of the artist to represent an idea. I mean, that's the primal artistic impulse, isn't it? All those prehistoric cave paintings in France, they're scenes from the lives those people lived. Think of the effort those artists went to. They had to choose a medium, choose their subjects, create the materials, and develop a visual vocabulary that hadn't even existed before they started. They invented art. Now, we can argue about whether or not it took unique effort for Duchamp, let's say, to sign a urinal and hang it upside down, but he was trying to represent the idea that the art world at that particular moment was both broken and limiting. And on that score, he succeeded. So that makes it art. As for the Germans' dirt pile, I can't really talk about something I haven't seen, but the fact that someone put a big pile of dirt in the middle of a clean white gallery, well, clearly that took unique effort, and I'm guessing there must have been an idea behind it?
Now, I have to stop you there. How could you possibly know that there was an idea behind it?
Well, plastic flags. You didn't know what it meant, and I don't know what they mean, but they must have meant something, or else why include them? And if they meant something, then doesn't that mean the German fellow was trying to say something? Seems to me, if you go to all that trouble to say something, it qualifies as art. What did Degas say? Art is not what you see, but what you make others see. Oh, I know, it's a slippery slope, but isn't that slippery slope how art stays alive? Well, will you look at that, Miss Aurora Talmadge, speechless. I must have struck a chord.
You did, Mr. Knox. You did indeed.
Then my work is done.
You know, someone once called me a gatekeeper of the art world. I rather liked the sound of that, but the way he said it right to my face made it sound like an accusation.
Who said it?
A young artist, minimally talented and completely unknown at the time. I met him at his first gallery show and we struck up a conversation. His work was nothing special, but he was very personable and quite good looking. And the wine was very, very good that night, so I stuck it out.
What did he mean by gatekeeper?
Well, I think he thought he was being very clever and cheeky, saying that I was someone in the art world who was in a position of power, someone with the ability to anoint an artist as either acceptable or not. Except, he didn't say acceptable or not, he said hot or not.
Huh.
I think it was something he read in a magazine. No, something he read online.
But that's kind of accurate, isn't it, Miss Talmadge? Aren't you a gatekeeper?
Oh, no, I don't think so. And even if I were, what of it? Don't we benefit from gatekeepers? Aren't we punished enough with unfiltered crap at every turn? Art, movies, television, shows, books, music, restaurants, and on and on and on. He called me a gatekeeper, but the owner of the gallery was standing right there with us. Wasn't she a gatekeeper too? Was his vision of a gatekeeperless, brave new world one where everything all the time was a perfect mass meritocracy? All noise, no signal, please. I'd rather die.
Did you tell him all that?
Mostly before I told him to sod off.
Whatever happened to him?
Oh, they sold all his paintings that were in the gallery that night and all the ones in reserve. He became quite the hot ticket, especially after he got a few commissions. About a year and a half later, I popped into the same gallery to have lunch with the owner, and the handsome young receptionist looked quite familiar.
No.
Mm-hmm. He'd had his moment in the sun, courtesy of a gatekeeper.
And how did he take to seeing you again?
Oh, he was the same pleasant and personable young man as before. And one day he'll probably run a gallery and become a gatekeeper himself, because don't we all eventually become the thing we most hate and fear? I think that evening at his gallery opening, he must have thought I hated artists, which couldn't be further from the truth. We need art in this world, and it doesn't matter whether it's hideous or beautiful, as long as it speaks the artist's truth with clarity and
isn't a pile of dirt.
ah.
Well, you'll never get people to agree about what's hideous and what's beautiful. In the same way, you'll never get people to agree about what's art and what's not.
Or to get some people to agree that the sky is blue these days, much less anything else.
Very true. I mean, when it comes to beauty alone, forget about differences in taste between people. What about, well, cultural differences for one?
There must be something all humans are hardwired to consider beautiful.
Good luck with that.
A newborn baby?
Ah, I loathe children.
Why?
Because they're noisy, smelly, and impossible to converse with.
Sounds like me in the morning before coffee.
Seriously, you don't find a newborn baby, beautiful?
Cute for a second or two at most.
Tiny, soft, vulnerable?
Until it screams and drools and pisses and shits. Sorry, no. And I guarantee you, I'm not alone in this.
A flower? That's got to be universal, right? A perfect red rose.
I'm allergic.
Ah,
But can you appreciate it, the beauty of it?
Well, yeah, sure, of course. But I could also understand someone who was allergic not thinking a red rose was beautiful.
Okay, I'm not giving up yet. Let's put nature aside and talk about art. What's beautiful to you, Miss Talmadge? The most beautiful work of art created by the human mind and hand. Go.
oh no. Trick question, pass.
It's not a trick question.
It's a trick question and I pass.
Okay, I'll go. Mine is a sculpture I saw in a church in Rome.
Who's the sculptor?
It's,
It's Bernini, isn't it?
how'd you know?
Darling, you're just a teensy bit predictable.
The fact that I like a Bernini sculpture means that I'm predictable?
Yes, but continue.
Okay. Okay. The church is San Francesco a Ripa, named after St. Francis of Assisi, and it's a pretty sacred place to the Franciscans. And one of those Franciscans was a nun who was so dedicated and so, pious that years and years after she died, the Pope ordered up a statue for her tomb, and to sculpt it, he predictably chose Bernini.
Touché.
Now, everyone knows there's a lot of Bernini at the Borghese Gallery in Rome, and they're all very nice, but this statue in this church, oh my gosh, it's amazing. I'm not usually a fan of most religious art, but it's called The Ecstasy of Blessed Ludovica Albertoni, and it's carved from this giant piece of white marble. She's beautiful, bigger than life size. She's reclining on a bed, her head is back, her lips are parted. She's clutching her breast, her habit is all crumpled up beneath her. I swear, you take that statue out of a church and it's an orgasm, no question. Except her ecstasy is the moment of her death. She's communing with God. It's this incredibly sacred, personal, final moment. You're witnessing something you should never be able to see, and yet everything about it invites you in. The fabric. I mean, that alone, the folds in her habit, you could stand right in front of it for hours, like I did, and you'd swear it was cloth. Her head's on a pillow that's so plush and so delicate, you'll never look at your bed pillow the same way again. And the kicker is, Bernini was in his 70s when he started it. And he knew his end was coming, so he made it in just 6 months, which is crazy because his hand slips while he's carving her lips. Boom, start over. The marble fractures the wrong way, breaks a chunk off the index finger. Boom, start over. Bernini didn't have the time to start over. You never think about the risk a sculptor takes carving stone, but once I started thinking about it, I couldn't not think about it. I visited that statue every day I was in Rome, and every single time I saw something new. But the look on Ludovica's face at the moment of her death, that's always what brought me in, so optimistic and so poignant, so passionate. It gives me hope.
Well then, to hope.
To hope.
To hope.
That was a very uplifting story.
You're here.
Let's all get some t-shirts printed to commemorate the experience, shall we? Oh, Miss Hatton, I'm joking. My God, can't I even joke with you?
Not quite sure you're up to the challenge, Miss Talmadge.
Red fan catches Aurora's eye and she crosses to the easel.
Mr. Knox, I want to ask you something.
Shoot.
How did you feel when you first saw this?
How did I feel? I'm not sure you understand the question. I told you how I found it.
Yes, yes, you did, but not how you felt. When you first laid eyes on Red Fan, what did you feel? What went through your mind? I'd like you to describe the emotions, if you can.
You want me to tell you what I felt when I first laid eyes on a painting that you told me not 30 minutes ago was a total fucking forgery?
Let's just assume for the moment that I'm giving you and Red Fan the benefit of the doubt. Please, indulge me.
Well, I knew that I'd found a canvas, obviously, but I didn't really see much more than that when I was up in the attic. There's more dust than headroom up there, and so I didn't really look at anything. I mean, get a really good look at what I had until I got it down here. I knew it must have been Victor's, but I didn't understand why I would have been hidden away in the attic, or why no one would have known about it or found it sometime in the past 100 years or so. I knew Red Fan was Victor's the moment I saw it. I set it up against a chair, and I remember it was cloudy that day, and there was this perfect, soft, filtered light coming in, flooding the room. I stepped back and took it in, took all of it in. My legs, they got weak. They went out on me a bit, and I sat down on the floor kind of hard. What did I feel? Awe. I felt awed, I guess, because I knew that finding it was important. And I was awed by the beauty of it, and to be the only living person to have laid eyes on it. But more than all that, I felt, this may sound stupid, but I felt a connection to the past, to our family, to the whole Victor Henry Knox world. I remember feeling very touched by that. I might have cried. I think I did a little. And I'll tell you this. I'll never forget that day as long as I live. Look, you can believe what you want to believe, but I know what I found. I know what I felt, and I know what I believe. Maybe I should ask you something. How did you feel when you first saw Red Fan?
Conflicted.
I don't understand.
To suddenly be presented with a previously undiscovered work of such unsurpassed beauty as Red Fan, well, it conflicts me. On the one hand, coming as it does from you, the provenance is virtually unimpeachable. On the other hand, it just doesn't fit with everything I've known for my entire professional life. It just doesn't fit.
I'm not sure I understand.
When it comes to the works of Victor Henry Knox, I've lived in a world where everything there was to be known about them was already definitively known. Bernard Epperson's ledger of Victor's works in every medium was meticulous. There were no missing works. And even though shortly before he died, Victor mentioned in his diary wanting to paint a woman with a red fan, there's no indication that he ever actually executed such a painting. There are no unexplained gaps in Victor's output, even toward the end of his life, the period when Red Fan was supposedly painted.
And that makes it a forgery?
Absent any other explanation for its existence, yes.
And I agree.
You're joking.
I'm sorry, Mr. Knox, but I think Miss Talmadge's instinct might be my instinct too.
I see. Well, you'll have to excuse me. Being unfairly accused always makes me want to piss.
Dakin turns, heads off stage.
When did you change your mind?
No, when he told us what he felt when he saw Red Fan.
Really? You didn't believe him?
Does that surprise you?
I thought he sounded quite sincere. I believe he believes Red Fan is genuine.
I don't know. Maybe the test will tell us something.
The test you wanted to run to convince me Red Fan was genuine?
Yes.
And now you want to run those tests to prove it's not?
Yes.
How do you suppose he agreed to let you run them?
I don't know. Maybe he wants to get caught.
Oh, my dear Miss Hatton, if only life were always like an episode of Law and Order.
Dakin re-enters.
I was thinking while I was in there, I should probably kick you both out.
They all listen to the rain coming down. After a moment, lightning, then thunder.
But that's too cruel in this rain, even for people from LA.
He heads to the bar.
So let's have another drink.
I could never say no to such a genial host.
I'm even making another sherry for you, Miss Hatton, so gird your loins.
Nope. Well, okay.
Can I ask you something, Miss Talmadge?
Could I stop you?
Do you think Bernard Epperson would have come to the same conclusion as you about Red Fan?
Well,
I mean, Miss Hatton said she shares your instincts. Did you share Epperson's instincts?
Dakin comes over with her drink, holds it out to her.
Miss Talmadge, you okay?
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you.
Dakin hands Minnie's drink to her.
Thanks.
Well, Minnie has a problem now. She has two drinks, this new one and the first one. She picks up the first drink, which she barely touched, and quickly dumps the new drink into the first drink. She ditches the empty glass, then takes a dainty sip of her new double-sized drink.
So, did you get your instincts from Epperson?
Bernard Epperson was an exceedingly complex man. Of course, he was world-renowned as an expert in the works of Victor Henry Knox, but Bernard was also quite the polymath.
The what?
A Renaissance man.
Oh, gotcha.
He could talk about anything, art, of course, but music, literature, opera, theatre, film, Indian food, automobiles, Shakespeare, Nietzsche, the 100 Years' War, the American Civil War, astrophysics, for God's sake. Bernard had the most open, thirsty, fertile mind I've ever encountered. He never stopped learning and exploring and questioning. Life was endlessly interesting to him, and he thoroughly devoured it.
How did you meet?
Bernard met my father at Cambridge. In fact, Bernard introduced my father to my mother, so saying I knew him all my life is actually a bit of an understatement. I quite literally wouldn't be here were it not for him. There are photos of Bernard holding me as a baby in the palm of one of his hands.
Yep, those big hands.
And he stayed a close family friend. For my 5th birthday, I got the usual dolls and toys and storybooks from everyone. But Bernard gave me a copy of Monet, a biographical and critical assessment. Let me mention again, I was 5 years old. The book was almost too big for me to hold, but there were dozens of lovely colour plates of Monet's work inside. I didn't know what an impressionist was, of course, but I fell in love with the pictures. I was probably 12 or 13 before I could understand the text, and then, then the floodgates opened. I devoured every book I could get my hands on about every artist I could find. It was the late 60s, and my friends worshipped the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and Carnaby Street fashion. But I worshipped Monet and Manet, Renoir, Degas, Van Gogh, Matisse, Cézanne, Gauguin, Cassette. Bernard saw my passion for art, and he fed my interest and fed my mind, opened me to the Renaissance old masters. Titian, my God, Titian, such genius. I practically lived in museums. I studied art all through school, but Bernard was my real education. He brought me all the way through the Cubists and the abstract expressionists, and somewhere between Picasso and Magritte, he told me he was in love with me.
Miss Talmadge, I never knew that.
Of course you never knew that, and you still don't know that, because if you ever repeat anything you hear me say in this room, I'll find you and personally remove your liver. Make a tiny noise if you understand. By this time, Bernard was working on volume 1 of the Knox catalogue raisonné, and I was his research assistant. He moved to New York to work on the project, and I moved there too. It was my first time away from home. And then both my parents died within a year.
My God.
Oh, no.
Which meant that now Bernard was the only thing I had in my life that vaguely resembled family. I threw myself into the work, and Bernard supported me through it all. Now, I want to be clear about something. I need to be clear about something. Mr. Knox, I haven't been entirely forthcoming with you.
When?
When I told you that I hadn't been here before, the truth is, I have been to this house before. In fact, I met you, though I'm certain you don't remember me.
I met you?
It was when Bernard came to visit all those years ago. I came with him. I remember you and your parents, and I remember that you were all very lovely. I was a few years older than you, just a mousy little thing. I probably blended right into the woodwork. Really, don't trouble yourself recalling. I was utterly unmemorable. But I do remember this house. Oh, yes. I do remember this house. After Bernard told me he was in love with me, I made it clear to him that I believed any type of romantic association was inappropriate. So that by the time we arrived here in Hyannisport, he and I had developed a completely professional relationship. I very much respected him, and I believed that respect was reciprocated. Well, that's what I believed. And that was the relationship I wanted, professional, all about the work. I never wanted him to. I never wanted.
Miss Talmadge?
We were here in this room. Bernard told your parents he'd need some time to make observations, measurements, take photos and the like, and so you left us alone. It was the weekend and you all had errands to run. And then, when Bernard knew we were alone, he and I, alone in the house, well, I told him I didn't want to. I was telling him no, but telling him no didn't stop him. I remember how different Bernard was at that moment. I'd never seen him like that. I remember it hurt. And I remember the light in this room, how beautiful and how perfect the light was. And then it was like I was outside myself, outside my body. I knew what was happening to me, and I remember wanting it to be happening to someone else, not me. I wanted it to be over. And then it was over. I wish I'd been more firm in telling him no. I wish I'd made it more clear that I didn't feel it was appropriate.
No.
It was my fault for not making it plain to him.
No.
And I'm sure I must have done something to lead him on.
No, Miss Talmadge, don't say that. Don't do that. That man raped you. It wasn't your fault. It was his. It was his.
Minnie's human impulse is to embrace her, but hey, this is Aurora Talmadge, and Aurora sees this happening. It appalls her a bit, but Minnie seems undeterred. Aurora rolls her eyes, nods consent, and Minnie wraps her arms around Aurora, and Aurora dissolves a bit, sobs for a long moment in Minnie's shoulder. Dakin comes over, holds out a handkerchief. Aurora breaks the embrace, takes the handkerchief, dabs at her eyes, composes herself.
That was the only time it ever happened. I think in Bernard's mind, we had a saucy May-December fling. He never spoke of it again. We continued work on the Knox Catalogue Raisonné books, and I learned from him everything he had to teach me.
I take it he was married.
Very. To a woman who was not only terribly charming and lovely, but also terribly, terribly rich. And a baroness, for fuck's sake. He'd never leave her, not that I would have wanted him to.
I don't know how you could stand to be around him for all those years after what happened.
Because whenever I was in the world of Victor Henry Knox, I was insulated by his genius and surrounded with the beauty of his works. And yet sometimes, when the memories came flooding back, all that beauty and all that genius got pushed aside. And every time that happened, my heart would break a little.
The sound effects of rain, which has been continuous, now slows down and stops. They all take note.
This may not make sense to you because you've come of age in an entirely different time than I did. But this was a bargain I made with myself, and I made it with both eyes open. When Bernard died, I took over the Knox project and I made it my life's work. I made it my own. I only hope I'm able to see it through to its conclusion. And if not, I suppose I'll have to hand it off to you, God help us all.
That would be my honor. You know, I like this Miss Talmadge. This Miss Talmadge should be Miss Talmadge.
The light from outside brightens considerably as the clouds part.
To be clear, I've no intention of going anywhere. The only thing that could possibly kill me is crossing a street against Los Angeles traffic, and it's simply not happening.
And now the power comes back on along with all the lights that were on earlier.
Ah, as if to illustrate my point.
Well, how about that?
I'll get the test set back up.
Minnie goes over to the equipment, powers up the laptop, fires up the halogen lights again, which are very bright.
Hold off for a moment.
Sorry?
Turn off those lights, please.
Minnie turns off the halogens.
Mr. Knox, personally, I've never put much stock in the importance of first impressions. Nevertheless, I'm sorry if today I've come across as a bit, well...
Peppery.
I was going to say a bit of a bitch, but we can go with peppery. I want you to know that I was the way I was because, well, mainly because it's my nature, as I'm certain Miss Hatton can attest.
No comment.
Well played. You see, I have several legacies to protect. My own of course, as the current keeper of the Knox catalogue raisonné, Bernard's, even with all his faults, as the prior keeper. But mainly I feel as though it's been my responsibility and my very great privilege to protect the legacy of your great-great-grandfather. And for as long as I may have left, so long as it is within my power, I will never let anything tarnish that legacy. The works of Victor Henry Knox are some of the true treasures in a world that is in desperate need of them. And I'm happy to say that today, those treasures have increased by one. We don't need to do any testing. It is my opinion that Tall Woman with Red Fan is in no way a forgery. It is a genuine late period work by the hand of Victor Henry Knox. I estimate that it was painted very near the end of his life, and I believe it very well may be the last of his grand manner portraits. Now, where are my shoes?
Dakin looks genuinely stunned but relieved. Minnie looks to be in shock. Aurora leaves them in her wake, finds her tote bag, sits, and changes back into her sneakers.
Miss Talmadge.
Sure about this?
Completely. You may pack everything up now.
Dejectedly, Minnie breaks the equipment down and packs it back up. Dakin, still processing this sudden turn of events, comes over to Aurora.
I have, there are so many questions. I mean, how does this work now? What happens next?
In the next few days, an art shipping agent will send a crew to crate up Red Fan and ship it to Bunbury's. In the meantime, Miss Hatton will prepare the consignment paperwork and overnight it to you. As soon as we get the painting, I'll work with our conservation staff as to how best to prepare it for auction.
Oh, when will the auction be?
Oh, too soon to say. We'll want to gin up some interest in the collecting community first. This will likely be one of the biggest auctions in recent memory. We have in-house publicists. They'll get biographical material from you, the story of how you found Red Fan, things like that. I expect the media will be very interested in one of the great art finds of the century. Just out of curiosity, where would you like to see Red Fan find a home?
With the highest bidder?
That's the spirit. I suspect there'll be considerable interest, especially among some of the deeper-pocketed museums. But even if a private collector buys it, my hope is that it ends up where everyone can see it. After all, it's Victor's last gift to the world. Well, it looks like a beautiful day out there again.
Yeah, that's Cape weather for you.
Just so. Miss Hatton, I'm going to walk for a bit. When you're ready to head back, call me and you can pick me up on the way.
You spending the night in Boston?
Yes, back to LA tomorrow late morning.
Did you bring an umbrella?
It's not raining now.
Yes, but...
Oh, right. Just give it 10 minutes.
I've always got extras on hand. I'll be right back.
Dakin exits. Minnie comes over.
I'd really like you to reconsider the testing, at least the infrared test.
You're going to have to trust my knowledge and instinct, Miss Hatton.
To be frank, ma'am, in this case, I believe your instinct is wrong.
No, I didn't give Red Fan a proper chance. I was blinded by other factors. I'm not proud of that. I'm just stating a fact. It's my responsibility to put things right, and that's what I've done.
No, ma'am. You're wrong. 100% wrong. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you that.
I'm wrong.
Yes, ma'am. And in my mind, only testing can prove me wrong.
Well, aren't you a cheeky monkey?
That's bad, right? Sorry.
Don't be. Keep it up. We may make a world-class art authenticator out of you yet.
Dakin re-enters, umbrella in hand.
Well, this should do you just fine.
This is very kind of you.
Not at all. I meant to ask, how much do you think Red Fan might go for?
Ah, I'm always hesitant to give estimates of this kind.
I mean, you can see how I might be curious.
Then you'll have to forgive me if I'm conservative. I like to underpromise and overdeliver in circumstances such as this one.
I understand.
But given the importance of the artist, the provenance, the story behind it, and the uncommon beauty of the work, conservatively, I'm thinking something north of the range of $50 million. Yes, I know that's a lot to take in. After all, that's the kind of money that can change a life.
Are you kidding? That's the kind of money that banks in the Caymans.
Aurora heads for the front door. Dakin follows.
By any chance, do you have an attorney and an accountant?
I do.
Well, fire them and get better ones. You'll need them.
At the door, she turns, puts a hand on Dakin's shoulder.
I want you to know that I'm very sorry I doubted you. I hope you can forgive me.
Of course, Aurora. And thank you.
Well then, until we meet again, Dakin.
She exits. Dakin slowly closes the door.
Wow. Wow.
He comes over to Minnie, who's packing away.
Can I give you a hand with something?
Oh, thank you.
She keeps working, doesn't look at Dakin.
Are you angry with me? Or Aurora?
I'm not angry. It's not my place to be angry. You're a very important client of Bunbury's.
I can't help but feel as though your attitude toward me has changed in the last few minutes.
Mr. Knox.
Dakin.
Mr. Knox. A lot has changed in the last few minutes.
Please stop. Just stop for a minute. Look at me, please. This is my family's legacy we're talking about. Red Fan, all of it, my family's legacy. And I would hate for you to think I'd want to muddy that up. And for what? For money? Don't need it. I'm telling you, Minnie Mouse, Red Fan is real. You can believe whatever you want to believe, but that doesn't change the fact that Red Fan is real.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Good. I'm glad.
After a beat, he goes over to the bar, gets a tray, and goes around the room collecting the barware. And Minnie goes back to her packing, wearing a wide, satisfied smile. Dakin heads towards the kitchen with his tray.
Get you anything from the kitchen?
No thanks.
He exits. After a beat, Minnie stops packing. Still smiling, she looks over at Red Fan, goes to the easel, walks all around the painting, and her smile fades, replaced by a look of deeply conflicted concern. Blackout. End of scene 1. Scene 2. The same, 5 years later, day. As before, the room is flooded with good light, and as before, we hear sound effects. A car pulls up and parks. Car door opens, closes. Car alarm is set. Beep, beep. Doorbell. Dakin makes his way on stage, looking pretty much the same. He crosses the room, opens the front door, reveals Minnie. Minnie has changed quite a bit. Elegantly coiffed, she wears a sleek, corporate-looking pantsuit. She also carries a tote bag reminiscent of the one Aurora had.
Hey there, found me again.
I did.
People always get turned around at the end there when they trust the GPS.
Nope, I remembered from last time. Good to see you, Mr. Knox.
All right. None of that. It's Dakin and Minnie.
Works for me. You look well.
Well, retirement agrees with me, I guess. Come on in.
Place hasn't changed much.
Well, it's gonna change quite a bit fairly soon. Finally worked out a transfer to the VHK archives. They're gonna take over the house and restore it to the way it was when Victor lived here. sort of a living museum. I set him up with an endowment, should keep him in good stead long after I'm gone.
That's wonderful.
Well, I had to do something with all that money.
But it's a challenge to spend $65 million.
You know, you wouldn't think it, but it is. Of course, I didn't get anywhere near the whole 65 million, right?
Well, not after we took our commission, that's for sure.
And then the taxes and whatnot, and all the third cousins and fifth cousins and best friends and charities and foundations that crawled out of the woodwork. Trust me, if you want to become popular, and I mean really, really popular, just come into a jackpot like I did. They'll line up around the block, just 3 deep, to get a nice, big, wet bite out of a pile of cash like that.
Actually sounds like kind of a nice problem to have.
Lord knows it kept me busy for a while.
How much was left after all that?
Oh, only 32 million.
Okay, that's just nuts.
Not a bad chunk of change when all is said and done.
What's the first thing you did?
Well, took a trip to Niagara Falls. Always wanted to see Niagara Falls.
And?
Well, I mean, once you've seen Niagara Falls, right?
I guess.
And of course, since I'll be moving out of here, I had to find a new place to live. So I got me a sweet little place down Cape Wellfleet. And at my age, I don't need much. You get used to things. You get set in your ways. I gave most of the rest away.
What do you mean, most?
30 million. Greenpeace, NRDC, Sierra Club, Friends of the Earth, Rainforest Alliance, a couple others here locally, anonymously, of course. Last thing I need is a bunch of charities breathing down my neck, wanting more. Sorry, kids, that's all, folks.
Good for you.
Now, you gotta tell me how Aurora's doing. We've stayed in touch, you know, emails every now and then. I know she was going in for more treatment, but she didn't tell me how it went.
Yeah, she's gone, Deacon.
My God. When?
6 days ago. I'm sorry I didn't call, but I knew I'd see you today and I wanted to tell you in person.
Right.
You know, the last time she went in, this was about 2 weeks ago, she actually walked from her apartment to Cedars. I offered to drive her, but she insisted on walking. And she told me that right across from the hospital, just as she stepped off the curb, a car ran the light and nearly hit her.
Didn't she say that'd be the only thing that could kill her? Oh, that woman was made out of iron. I would have worried more about the car. Oh, I'm sorry, Minnie Mouse. I know she meant a lot to you.
Thank you, she did.
And I appreciate you coming all the way out here to tell me this. You didn't have to do that. And it means a lot that you did.
Of course. And there's also this.
She reaches into her tote bag, takes out a large book that matches the rest of the Victor Knox volumes on Dakin's bookshelf.
Volume 7. We both wanted you to be the first person to have it.
She gives the book to Dakin. He turns it over in his hand, smiling broadly. He reads the cover.
By Aurora Talmadge and Minerva Hatton. My God, I couldn't be prouder if I was your dad. Look at how beautiful that is.
He holds the book up, showing the cover. It's Red Fan.
I'm touched beyond words. Thank you, Minnie.
Of course.
Dakin gets up, slides the book in place on the shelf next to the other 6 volumes.
They look good all together like that. I can't wait to read it.
During the next, Minnie reaches back into her tote bag, takes out a pair of comfortable slip-ons, changes out of her high heels.
And there's another reason I'm here. Kind of a difficult subject, actually.
More difficult than telling me Aurora passed? Maybe I should get us a drink, huh?
You probably should.
What can I get you?
Nothing at the moment. Dakin, It turns out there was something about Red Fan that made it different from all of Victor's other paintings.
What do you mean different?
It has to do with Victor's working method and Red Fan in particular.
Uh-huh. Is this about that infrared thing you wanted to do, the one with the lights? What was it?
Infrared reflectography.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah, shortly after the sale 5 years ago, I asked the new owner for permission to do a different test. This test is called Scanning Macro X-ray Fluorescence Analysis.
That's a mouthful.
MAXRF for short. MAXRF would show any chemical compound differences between the pigments used for Red Fan and any of Victor's other contemporaneous paintings.
I thought Aurora didn't want to do any testing.
Well, since it was after the sale, it wasn't Aurora's call anymore.
What did the new owner say?
It was pretty hard to pin down. But 48 hours before the painting was supposed to ship, I got word that he gave permission, and Bunbury's gave me just 6 hours to have the painting moved under guard to the test lab, do the tests, then have it moved back to be packed and shipped, which is crazy. I told them, I said, that's crazy. I need more like 10, 12 hours, you know?
Did you make it?
Barely. And I had to keep the whole thing secret from Aurora, which was no mean feat, I can tell you that. Do you want to know what the testing showed?
Apparently that's why you're here.
Right. Right.
Well then shoot.
It was a perfect match. No differences.
Which you already knew.
Which I already knew, yes.
But you said there was something different.
Right. See, I couldn't use MAXRF to scan the whole painting. That would have taken too long. So I just looked at key sections. And when I looked at the results from the sections around the face and the Red Fan, I thought I saw faint outlines of what looked like a sketch beneath the pigment.
Huh.
So that's when I did the infrared reflectography test.
The one Aurora stopped you from doing.
Right. I set up the lights and the camera, fired everything up, and there they were. Charcoal lines. They lit right up in infrared like highways on a road map. The whole painting was lightly sketched in charcoal underneath the paint.
I'm not sure I follow.
As Minnie speaks, she moves around the room, straightens the pictures on the walls without really thinking.
Your great-great-grandfather worked a la prima, wet on wet. That's wet paint on top of wet paint, and he worked fast. When Victor started a painting, he only drew a few light lines with paint straight onto primed canvas just to get the proportions and the layout set. I mean, think about that for a second. That means Victor had the whole thing in his head before he ever started. The composition, the coloring, the quality of the light and shadow, and he just went right after it, first brushstroke to last. Every Victor Henry Knox I've ever tested, every one Bernard Epperson and Aurora Talmadge ever tested, and every one I've ever seen the test results on, the same. No pentimenti. Victor never changed his mind, never scraped off, never painted over. He just executed. I mean, that's remarkable. That's like Mozart with a paintbrush, and all of Victor's working methods, they're all laid out in Aurora's book. You must have read it. Maybe you forgot. Bacon. Victor never used charcoal on a painting.
No lines.
No lines.
Guess I'm no Mozart. I never meant to hurt you, Minnie, or Aurora, or anyone. Believe me.
You know, I believe that you believe that. And not to put too fine a point on it, but there's a qualitative difference between hurt and damaged. But we'll leave that for another time. Right now, there's something I want to know.
Why'd I do it?
No. How?
Dakin gets up, goes over and pours himself another drink. Starts back, thinks, downs it, goes back, pours another.
Victor didn't leave Red Fan behind, but he did leave
A blank, primed canvas. My God.
Actually, he left a pair of blank, primed canvases. I figured I'd just give him to the archive, but there was something else under that drop cloth in the attic. All of Victor's pigments. And not just a little, a lot. Enough for a dozen paintings. And of course they were old, but they were easy enough to reconstitute. And then I remembered reading in the Knox books about how Victor wrote in his diary that he wanted to paint a woman in a blue dress with a red fan. And that's when it all came together for me. It only took 9 days to paint Tall Woman with Red Fan. But it took me 2.5 years to make that fresh paint on that old canvas look right. If the day was nice, I'd take it outside and just let it bake in the sun. And at night, I kept it in the garage. And over time, the summer heat and the Cape Cod winters gave it the right crack allure and made it look old. Oh, and the termites and mice got to it a little, but that only helped with the aging. But I could never pull it off without a plausible diversion. You know, like a magician, when he gets you to look at this hand, well, the other hand does what he doesn't want you to see.
Those awful paintings?
Yeah. I knew that if I showed you and Aurora some paintings that were, well, verifiably shitty, you'd never believe I had the chops to forge a Victor Henry Knox.
Dakin nods towards the painting on the upstage wall, the one that caught Aurora's eye.
But that one nearly gave me away.
Minnie moves to the painting, gives it a good look.
I'll be damned.
She points to the signature in the corner.
What would you have done if Aurora had figured out those were your initials and not Dick?
Probably would have lied.
To be fair, it really does look like Dick. DVK.
Dakin Victor Knox.
The sundial hiding in the shade. Did you really believe you'd get away with it?
Actually, yes. I mean, was there a living soul who knew more about Victor and his work than Aurora Talmadge? Remember, she walked out of here convinced it was one of the great art finds of the century.
Right, but first she said it was a fake.
And how do you account for that?
I think when she walked in here, into this house, after what happened all those years ago, I think she wanted Red Fan to be fake. I think she needed Red Fan to be fake. All the things she kept inside for all those years, all the damage it did, all the scars on her soul.
That accounts for Aurora's tough pose, I guess. But it doesn't account for why she changed her mind.
She told me. She said that what Epperson did to her, she said it blinded her. She may have wanted Red Fan to be fake, but she believed it was real. And once everything was finally out there, once she was finally able to talk about it, the blindness lifted and her soul was clean again.
And she could say that Red Fan was real.
Yeah. Massively helped by a perfect forgery, of course.
Thank you.
You know, she never said another word about Epperson after that day. At least not to me. And I certainly wasn't about to ask.
Well, that's just self-preservation on your part. But you proved Red Fan was fake and you said nothing.
I told you. I found out after the sale.
Right, but not too late to make everyone whole.
Aurora? She wouldn't have been made whole. She told the world that Red Fan was genuine. She would have been ruined. Victor was her life's work. It would have killed her. I mean, who am I kidding? She probably would have come here and killed you first. Then it would have killed her. I guess I just don't see what's so funny about fraud.
You know, you're making out like I'm Aurora Talmadge's random heathen forger who went out and found an old painting that was the right size, washed the canvas, faked the chemistry, aped Victor's style. But that is not what Red Fan was.
Sounds pretty much like what it was to me.
No. No. Victor left those canvases behind. He stretched them. He pounded in the nails. He primed them. He even had the idea for the subject and left behind the materials to paint it. Victor Henry Knox gave Red Fan everything it needed. And he gave me the blood and the talent. And he gave me the name.
I always wondered how a really great forger would rationalize a forgery.
So it's a forgery because it wasn't actually literally painted by Victor's hand? Is that what you think?
Dakin, it's not a philosophical debate. You want to hear me say it? Yes. Yes, it's a forgery because it wasn't actually literally painted by Victor's hand.
So Michelangelo and Titian, El Greco, Rembrandt, Da Vinci, pretty much every major museum in the world has something hanging on their walls with the artist's signatures and attributed to them, but almost certainly not painted by their hands. Are they forgeries?
Oh, so you're saying that's what Red Fan is, from the school of Victor Henry Knox?
Why not? Who do you think I learned from? And when I signed it, Knox, was that even remotely a lie?
Dakin, if a technicality is the best way you can defend what you've done, well, then God help you.
Fair enough. Then let me ask you something. Why do you think I did it?
I can't even imagine.
Try.
Well, okay, if you look at it like a crime, which is what it is, you had motive, means, and opportunity, so you went and did it. The means and the opportunity were the materials and your talent. The motive, well...
Clearly not money.
No, but... Well, there certainly was renewed interest in Victor's work after the Red Fan sale, so maybe that was on your mind. You know, I really have no idea what your motive was.
And the sale itself. Who got hurt? Didn't we all sit in this very room all those years ago, you and me and Aurora, and didn't we talk about how fucked up the art world is? How its priorities are all twisted and skewed?
We did, but that still doesn't excuse a forgery. And I don't think you even know what's happened to Red Fan since the auction, do you?
No.
Right. So an anonymous bidder bought it for $65 million, that much we all knew. Well, here's the part you didn't know. The anonymous bidder was a Saudi billionaire. Every museum in the world tried to reach out and get it on permanent loan, or at least for an exhibition. I hear LACMA came close, but as usual, they screwed the pooch. A year later, the Saudi billionaire sold Red Fan to a Brazilian billionaire for $108 million. Private sale, practically no publicity, but a nice profit, right? 6 months later, the Brazilian trades it for, well, God knows what he traded it for or who he traded it with. Just the last I heard, Red Fan was sitting in a Freeport warehouse in Macau.
You're kidding.
Nope. Red Fan is just a commodity now, Dakin. A thing that billionaires can bounce back and forth to settle debts beyond the prying eyes of customs and the tax man. Like gold bricks or bags of cash. Just prettier.
Well, that's sad.
Why? It takes the heat off you. I think you'd be thrilled to hear that.
A painting like Red Fan is meant to be seen. What's so funny?
You just have no problem at all passing off your work as Victor's, do you?
Should I?
Should I? You can't even hear it.
Of course I hear it. It just doesn't matter to me.
But it does matter to me because it's my job. But the part that really kicks my ass is that you looked me in the eye and you lied to me, Dakin. That hurts. That really hurts. God, why did it have to be so good?
It was good, wasn't it?
And that's the problem. Because if it sucked, we wouldn't be talking right now. If the pigments were wrong, if the wood was too new, if the brush strokes hadn't been perfect. So, no, it wasn't good. It was great. God damn it.
Dakin moves to a table, picks up what looks like a thin magazine, opens it, reads.
We should all count ourselves fortunate to live in a world where Victor Henry Knox's greatest work, lost to all sight for over a century, is now restored to us for posterity.
Yeah, I wrote that for the auction catalog.
I know. It was good. No, it wasn't good. It was great, God damn it. Oh, I guess I have to thank you. I mean, you knew what Red Fan was. You could have bribed the hell out of me to keep it quiet. Oh my God, you've never even thought of that. I probably would have paid you too, pretty much anything you would have asked. You want that drink now? Does he still drink sherry?
Bourbon.
I'll join you.
Dakin goes over to the bar, puts together 2 bourbon rocks.
Who is she?
She who?
Red Fan. Someone you knew?
Oh, no. Well, a little bit. The chin and the mouth and the nose are a girl I knew in Italy, Fiona Margherita Alessandro. God, she was beautiful.
Fiona. Were you in love with Fiona?
She didn't even know I was alive.
Oof, ouch.
She raises her glass in a toast.
Chin chin.
Santani.
They clink and take sips.
Where's Fiona now?
No idea. That was decades ago. Jesus, probably a fat, happy old Italian grandma by now.
Why were you in Italy?
Art school.
Huh. Self-taught. Right.
Yeah, well.
What about the eyes and the forehead?
Oh, yeah, well, that really is Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Why did you do it? Didn't you think you could get caught?
God, I really don't know. Maybe deep down there was a part of me that wanted to get caught.
I knew it. I'm sorry, it's just, if it had turned out to be anything less than perfect, you'd have been a pariah. Why take the risk?
I don't necessarily know that my reason is going to mean anything to you.
Why?
You're too young.
Yeah, but you once told me I was an old soul, so try me.
Everyone wants to leave something behind. That's just human, I think. We're only here for a little while, and even if you believe there's something eternal after this life, well, that's just something you believe, something you take on faith. There's no proof. You could be wrong. I'm not a believer, so for me, it's just this life. And we're here for a few score and change, and then, oh, gone. So, you want to leave something behind. For most people, that's children. Besides the paintings and the drawings, Victor left my great-grandfather behind, and he left my grandfather behind, and he left my father behind, and then me. Just me. Never married, no kids, end of the line, no more Knoxes after me. Now, you're going to love this. But none of the Knoxes between Victor and me has ever had a lick of artistic talent. I mean, none. It became a running joke in the family. The height of artistic achievement for a Knox was a stick figure or a really nice hand turkey. Tell me. Even when I was young, I knew I wanted to be an artist. But that just wasn't something us Knoxes went into. That was something Victor Henry Knox did. And the rest of us Knoxes ran general stores or became veterinarians or sold insurance. And my mother and father didn't approve of my inclination. So when I was 19, I took every dime I'd saved and I flew to Milan. I picked up enough Italian to get by, and I enrolled in the Accademia di Belle Arti di Milano, where Victor studied. I painted the same street scenes Victor painted. I sketched Fiona Margarita Alessandro from life in the nude and fell in love with her, but never spoke to her, not even to say hello. Nobody there knew I was a Knox because I used my mother's maiden name, Ramsey. And there was this little old life drawing instructor there, Maestro Giordano, 80-something if he was a day. He'd been there forever, and they revered him so much they named the figure drawing studio after him. There was a little plaque on the door, Studio Giordano. I didn't know anything about that, so one day I asked him if the studio was named after him, and he said, "Si danno il tuo nome a qualcosa, pensano che sei morto." If they name something after you, they think you're dead. He was so proud of that little plaque. I'm sure it's still there. I'm sure the studio still looks the same, just like pretty much everything else in Europe. Turns out there was no portrait artist Maestro Giordano admired more than Victor Henry Knox. And when he would look at anything I did, he would shake his head and say, "Proprio come Knox, ma non respire." Just like Knox, but it doesn't breathe. There was something, a connection coming down through the generations. Giordano could see it, even though he didn't know I was related to Victor. We had technical skills in common, but that was it. Little old Maestro Giordano was right. My work didn't breathe. You look at Victor's work. Oh, it's alive. I had Victor's technique, but not Victor's inspiration. So a little while after I got back from Milan, I put painting away and I sold insurance for 37 years. Life, homeowners, marine, auto, health, 8-time New England Underwriter of the Year by the time I retired. And then one day, I went up in the attic and found what Victor left behind. And so I did it. I stepped out of the shade. I took Victor's idea, the tall woman with the red fan, and suddenly I could feel Victor's breath. I could feel Victor guiding my hand. I was connected to him. To be honest, I don't remember much about doing the actual painting because it was him doing the painting, not me. I saw the woman in the blue dress through his eyes. I saw the red fan through his eyes. And it was the most pure, most beautiful, most complete experience in my life. I mean, you say red fan's a forgery, that it's not a genuine Victor Henry Knox, but I'm telling you, it's his in every way that counts. So do what you need to do, Minnie Mouse. Be true to your truth, whatever you decide. I promise you, I'll live with the consequences. Because at least now, I've left something behind.
Minnie tears up. Dakin goes to a box of tissues, plucks 2 out, and hands them to her.
Oh, good God, don't get all soft on me now.
Oh, cut me some slack, Dakin. It's kind of been a day, okay? What should I do?
Ooh. You said the only thing that matters in life or love or art is truth, so I think you're going to say you discovered that red fan is a fake and let the chips fall as they may.
How would you feel about that?
Well, seeing as how I'd most likely end up in prison, none too pleased, if I'm being honest.
And Victor Henry Knox's greatest painting suddenly becomes a multi-million-dollar piece of toilet paper.
That's the risk. But you'd be telling the truth. You'd be a hero.
Yeah, right. To like 3 people. To everyone else, I'd be a goat. At best, they'd think I was in on it. And quite frankly, they'd be right. At worst, well, I don't really want to think about at worst at the moment. At any rate, my career would be over. I lied in print. I'd be the James Fry of the art world, a 10,000 word cautionary tale in Vanity Fair, then unemployable at 27.
You think?
Oh, trust me, I'd be well and truly fucked. The best job I'd get in the art world would be barista at the LACMA espresso cart.
I think you're exaggerating.
Yeah, well, not by much.
Minnie knocks back the last of her bourbon. She holds up the glass, looks at it.
Oh, if my mother could see me now.
Do you think it's fair to say you'll outlive me? I mean, I'm probably older than your father, right?
Where are you going with this?
You want the truth out there, but you also want to protect Aurora, right?
And me.
And yourself. And maybe even me a little bit.
Okay.
Then tell the truth. Just don't tell it yet.
Uh-huh. I'll write it all down. What Epperson did to Aurora. What you did with Red Fan. What I did to cover it up. I'll write it. I'll write everything. I'll write it all down and I'll lock it in a what's the thing inside the bank where you can...
Safe deposit box.
Yeah. And I'll lock it in a safe deposit box. And in the event of my death, someone will take out what I wrote and send it to the publisher of the Knox books.
Ha!
Right? I mean, who knows? If there's ever a volume 8, it might be all about us.
Dakin gets up. He goes over to Minnie, takes her face in his hands, bends down, lightly kisses her forehead.
Thank you, Minnie Mouse.
He looks her in the eye for a moment, then goes to the armchair just right of center. He shoves against one arm, moves it a few feet stage left.
What are you doing?
Dakin breaks for the stairs.
Roll up the rug.
What?
The rug, roll it up.
Minnie points to the rug that was under the chair.
This one?
Yep,
Why?
you'll see.
And he disappears upstairs. Minnie shrugs, hikes up her pants, gets down and rolls up the rug. She shoves the roll aside, stands. She gazes at the floor, hunkers down, smiles, runs her hand over the paint stains on the hardwood. Dakin appears at the top of the stairs. He's got an easel and a small metal box. He brings the easel to where Minnie stands.
Excuse me, you're in the way.
Minnie moves aside. Dakin opens the easel, sets it up.
What are you doing?
I'd think that was obvious.
He dashes off stage right.
Not so obvious, Dakin.
After a moment, Dakin reappears. He carries a large blank canvas coated in light gray primer. It's the same size as Red Fan, 5 feet tall by 2 feet wide.
Is that Victor's other canvas?
Yep.
He fits the canvas low on the easel, portrait style.
What are you gonna paint?
You. Your portrait.
But that's Victor's last canvas.
Good eye.
He primed that himself.
And he did a very good job.
Are you sure you want to use it?
Absolutely sure.
But it should go to the VHK archives.
You know what? The archives can kiss my ass. I gave them a house. This one's for you. Would that be all right?
Yes. Yes, that would be all right. Oh, you mean now? Okay. Okay.
He takes her by the arm, guides her to a console table stage left. He positions her next to it.
How do you want me to pose?
Dealer's choice. Express yourself.
She makes a few attempts at poses as Dakin goes back to the easel, makes a few adjustments. Minnie finally settles on a pose.
Comfortable?
I guess. No, wait. Before you start, promise me one thing.
Which is?
Do it in your style. I don't want a fake Victor. I want a genuine Dakin.
Deal.
He takes a stick of charcoal out of the metal box, holds it up for Minnie to see.
Now, I am first going to make a charcoal sketch. All right, then. Shall we begin?
Dakin starts the charcoal sketch as we slowly fade out. End of play.
Wow, guys, thank you. Thank you. Yay, I'll applaud. There's Jane. Susan, turn your camera back on. Oh, there. I'll talk into my microphone. That's better. There we go. I was so blown away. That was awesome, guys. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody who's watching, everybody here on Zoom, and everybody out on Facebook. Yay. Thank you for spending your Saturday afternoon or evening with us. I'm going to ask if there are any questions, any kind of comments or questions that are coming through from, I'm looking at the Facebook feed right here. I'm looking at the comments feed here. So people are applauding. That's very nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There's applause. There's applause. You can see applause on the feed. That's very, very sweet. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. On their behalf, it's for them, obviously. Anyway, anybody have any questions, any kind of comments, please go ahead and ask here on the chat system on Zoom. I'm taking a look at that, or or anyone on Facebook.
How difficult is it to
Who's
present? It's Steve in DC.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hey, guys.
He doesn't want to type it. He's going to say it.
I'm going to say it. How difficult is it to have a presentation like this, given the circumstances, and maybe glancing at the screen while you're looking at your script? And it's different than being on stage somewhere.
Anybody? Yeah. Well, the technology is a whole layer unto itself. If you had told me or any of us, a month ago that something like this would be something we would do or was even possible, I think none of us would have ever believed that. But does somebody want to take about what it's like to kind of deal with a camera in this sort of situation and do lines and render a performance? Jeff, Jane?
For me, most of all, over everything, it was just nice to be working again.
Good.
To be with
Nice.
friends, and that's it. That was, and yeah, there's a strangeness to it, and it's different, but that was the main thing.
Yeah, I was planning to do a reading of this play, an actual in-person physical reading in a room with actors and a few invited people, and of course that got rendered impossible by our circumstances that we find ourselves in. But I saw a couple of people do something like this. Readings and shorter types of stuff. I never saw a full play done. I imagine they're being done now because we are far from unique, or in this particular regard. I'm sure we're going to find that there's going to be a lot of this in the coming weeks and months. But it was a way to actually do what I had intended to do all along, which is to get the play read, for me to be able to hear it, for me to see wonderful performers, wonderful actors like these, put performance energy into that. Because as a writer, you are in your room and you're playing all the parts and you're saying all the lines like a crazy person. And so it's nice to not be, a crazy person, actually have it out of your head. So anybody else? Jane?
Yeah.
Ray?
For me, obviously these are very strange times and we're doing very strange things. But as Jeff said, it's so lovely to be able to work on something when we're just all on our own, really, in lots of ways. But I find that all the technical, where we're doing it and how we're doing it, goes away once you start the storytelling.
Yep.
So I'm hoping that's how it came across. But once I'd started telling the story, it doesn't really matter where if you're doing a book on tape, if you're doing some voiceover thing in a studio, once you start telling the story, it's just acting, like we've all done always,
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Jane. I feel that the script you wrote, Mike, was so lovely with so much in it, and just listening. Whether you're in front of someone or sitting in a room by yourself with the text, it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't hamper you. It's just different. You have that connection to the words that were written.
Right.
And
I mean, of course, oh, sorry.
listen. Yeah, we're listening. Yeah.
Of course, in the back of your mind, you go, what would this be like if we were up on our feet and on a stage doing it? I mean, of course, or you know, that would be lovely someday.
I think
the thing that is one thing that I was realizing is missing is that thing that we've all said as we're deep in rehearsal. We've all said, "Wait till the other character arrives," and that's when the audience comes in, and suddenly there's a whole dynamic that
whole different energy, right?
I feel like you guys, even here, just knowing that they're out there, it changes everything.
I know.
Yeah,
I know. I believe me. I can tell you that from dress rehearsal to the performance, night and day. I mean, it's just remarkable how the degree of change and energy, the difference in energy from rehearsal to performance. I'm going to read a couple of questions out from Facebook. Dean, hey, Dean Regan, how are you? Dean asks, what was my inspiration to write this piece? And Jeffrey Dornbos also says, where did this come from? Kind of the same question, so I'll tackle those two. I had been working a couple of years ago on what was ostensibly going to be a sitcom about, hey, Charlie Haid, there's Charlie Haid, about an art forger. And I had a whole bunch of research materials about that, about the art world and forgeries and how they came about and how they were successful and how they weren't successful. And the show never came together, but I had all this material hanging around, and I started to get into it again. And then I don't know how ideas come around. I thought, well, this would be kind of cool, and I started to kind of sketch out some ideas, and the play just kind of grew up around that. Actually, like with most things, for me, I write something first, and the first thing that I wrote on this, there's a monologue that Dakin has in the second scene where he talks about leaving something behind, about how everybody wants to leave something behind, and it seemed to me that was sort of the piece, the unifying kind of bit of idea around which everything else kind of got painted on from that. So it kind of sprang from there. So there was a first very early version of that monologue, and everything kind of came around from that. Charlie, you're here. Did you want to ask something?
Yeah, a couple
That's
things.
Charlie Haid, ladies and gentlemen, a legendary actor in his own right, and a very dear pal.
Well,
what's up?
It was interesting. I've been a director for so long, so you start watching stuff from the eyes of director, and you look at a reading for the first stuff without reading it. You hear it's fantastic. You hear it for the first time, and you never get a group of actors like this
in his own right, and a very dear pal.
Ever to get something like this up and have it live like this, because it does live. I mean,
yeah, well, that's when you get the people who were the voices in your head to actually be there in real life.
Yeah, no,
it doesn't suck. It really doesn't suck.
Great casting. One of the notes I have, though, which is as you go through the piece, as you watch the piece, or listen to the piece, or whatever we're doing, we look at it, and I don't know whether to love you or hate you. All the characters, every one of the characters. I don't know whether I like the character or hate him. And that is what is real drama there.
Right. Well, conflict, right?
Well, because H.P. Lovecraft said at one point, to be a duplicate or to pose as one is cause for revulsion.
Right.
And I don't know why that struck me, but it's, you heard everybody going on and on in the first act, first scene about art and this and that and the pretension of it and all the rest, and then realizing that each character has been totally caught up in their own angst, their own. I mean, it's unbelievable to watch. I just love that part, because when you get to the second part, you go, oh shit! Every one of these guys bought their own bullshit. Everybody compromised.
Yeah.
Everybody, and quite frankly, in my in my whatever the resolution is, I really still walk away from it that it was all a compromise. But that is human. That is human nature.
Life is compromised. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's the huge flaw
Yeah.
within all people is that everybody sold out, sold their ideals, and sold the whole thing. And as delightful or as interesting as the last beat was, it was like I kept thinking, well, maybe they're going to change. Maybe they're going to change a little bit, but it came down to a compromise between Minnie and Dakin in a way. I'll paint you in this, and coming to the realization that that there was this flaw, and there was only this to do. I don't know if that's the correct interpretation.
But that the truth will get out there eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like, but again, compromise. I mean, nobody gets to lock anything up in a fucking strong box forever.
Yeah.
And I think that's a real important thing to understand, that you're not going to lock up your bullshit and then all of a sudden someone's going to read it later after you're dead. And, I mean, that's the irony. That's why it makes it so fucking interesting.
Thanks.
And again, no, really. And again, as a,
Really?
I mean, as a director, I can't help say this because what the hell, because I'm not really working a whole lot anymore, but boy, I'd love to get my hands on this one.
I would love that too.
I got some stuff. I mean, I really was watching it going, and that's it. Again, it's the eye of the beholder. Certainly someone who does something that I've done all my life.
Right.
I look at it and go, oh yeah, okay. But that's something, me and you will talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. I want to move on to a couple of other questions. Thank you, Charlie, for that. And it's great to see your face. I haven't seen that mug of yours in a long time.
Yeah, man.
Mary Melton, hi Mary, and Charlene Tilton, hey Charlene. Both pretty much asked the same question. Charlene says, "What was your rehearsal process being separated?" Mary's question is, "Great performances, love the play. Thank you very much. Without being on a stage or a set, how deeply are you able to put yourself in a scene compared to a table reading?" So I'll throw that out to the cast. Anyone want to talk about the differences in that, or about what the rehearsal process was like being separated on different coasts in different parts of the state?
Well, it would have been nice to be in all the same place, but we weren't. I mean,
Right.
I think we were kind of right up front. We went, oh, this is what it's going to be. And so you couldn't be surprised by it, if you know what I mean. Of course, it would be lovely to go, oh, and one who, how are you? And Jeff and I worked together 1,000 years ago, and catch up. And I mean, we did a bit of that via the lovely Zoom, which we're all becoming a little bit more familiar with. And yes, there's something, familiar about being in a rehearsal room or a reading around a table. But as I say, in the end, I think as soon as you start telling the story, it's all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was certainly my impression watching the rehearsals. We had we had a total of 4 rehearsals, and it was basically just, you're not blocking anything. You can't get up around and move anything. So really it was just, we could do things within the frame, within the limit of the frame. Jane, of course, had this wonderful idea about when she's on the FaceTime call. She's, we were just seeing my forehead. You're talking about seeing my forehead on the FaceTime call. What if I'm down here and you're just seeing my forehead? And the second she did that, I just thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen in my life. It was hysterical. So little things like that. But I think just really, you're sanding off the rough edges as you go, as you do in any rehearsal process. You start out a little rough and you kind of smooth it out from there. Jeff, Ray, either of you folks want to add something? Susan, anybody want to add something to that?
I was really surprised at how close I was able to feel to each of you being on the other side of a screen. It really was there for me.
Yeah, well, that definitely came across. You know, I think it's just human nature. You adapt. We're human, and we are infinitely adaptable. You know, we're doing things now that we never thought we'd be doing 2 weeks ago. We're putting on face masks to go out in public. We're washing our hands 1,000 times a day. You know, everybody's doing things to accommodate and to you know, move forward in the world. And I just think this just speaks to the adaptability of humans. No one would ever by choice, I think, want to do a play reading. Actors, directors, writers, you know, have a play reading take place, you know, in cyberspace, but yet we made it work somehow, you know, because humans are adaptable, and this is what we're doing. We're all sort of living this moment right now together. And I think that's kind of extraordinary. There were some questions about what happens next with the play. I don't know. You tell me. You know, it would be lovely to see this on a stage, and certainly that's something that we'll be trying to, you know, look at and move forward. But you know, as for that, your guess is as good as mine. There's a question: how long ago did I write this? I started this in July of last year, and it wrote. I like to say it wrote itself. It didn't write itself, if only. I wrote it rather quickly for a first draft. Came around to a first draft by the first of the year, which is fast. You know, I think for me, I put it aside for a little bit, and then it's really just been sort of tinkering with it since the first of the year, roughly. There's a question. Oh gosh, is Jane really British?
I'm afraid so, yes. I'm afraid so. I've lived here for 30 years or something, and I don't seem to have been able to lose my accent. I mean, I can if I have to and speak like an American person, but I am indeed British.
Yeah, she is indeed British. Let's see if there are any other. Wait, am I missing anything?
Michael, there's some stuff on the screen chat. If you look on your Zoom chat, there were some questions. From Ms. Rudderman.
Laura Rudderman. Question for Jeff.
Ruderman.
Ruderman.
Ruderman, I beg your pardon.
I beg your pardon. Laura Ruderman, my apologies. Question for Jeff: do you think about his former stepfather-in-law while doing this role? Is that an inside joke?
No, he was an artist.
Oh.
Yes, he came into my mind.
That's
awesome.
All
right.
One of the fun things, just before we leave, one of the fun things that we all had to deal with doing this format was we all had to have put our dogs somewhere else.
In doggy prison.
Dog prison.
So that they wouldn't bark. So for my dog sitter, thank you very much.
That's awesome.
And speaking of which, it's time for me to take ours out for the final.
I'm going to just add one more thing here, Kevin. This is from Jeff. This is from your son, Kevin. He texted me a question. He says it was fantastic, really magical. My question is, will there be an opportunity for others to re-watch? And the answer to that is yes. As soon as I close this stream out on Facebook Live, it will be available on the Facebook Live page. I think it takes a while for them to process it and make it all ready for video viewing. So, you know, yes, but it will be out there on the Facebook Live page. I also am recording this performance locally on my computer, and as soon as I've done that, I will kind of edit out all the choppy bits at the beginning of me talking and just do the play part of it, and I'll upload that to YouTube, and there will be a link available on YouTube, and I'll see if I can't create a Tall Woman with Red Fan account, so you'll be able to search for it. So yes, it will be out there. Won't keep it out there forever. It'll be out there for a limited period of time. So if you are interested in taking a look at it, take a look at it, because it's going to be, like all things in life, ephemeral. So I want to thank all of the folks who tuned in here live on Zoom and on Facebook Live. Thank you for spending part of your Saturday afternoon or evening with us. I want to thank Jeff DeMunn and Sara Ray Foster and Jane Carr and Susan Malerstein-Watkins for their prodigious talents and lending them to this work. I so appreciated spending all the time that we spent together in the last couple of weeks putting this together. And maybe we'll do something again. You know, art doesn't stop, so maybe we'll have something else to bring to you in the next short while. But on behalf of all of these folks and on behalf of myself, I want to thank you all for tuning in, and be safe and be healthy. We'll see you
Great
soon.
job, everybody. Really enjoyed the performance. It was fabulous. Nice job, Mikey.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Good to
Thanks,
see you,
Steve.
Susie.
We'll
Okay,
we'll
love you.
see you soon. Bye.